The year is 1645. Ryagando Cave. Outside, the world is silent. Inside, a legend is fading. Miyamoto Musashi, the sword saint, the man who never knew defeat, is finally facing an enemy he cannot cut. Death. Most men, when they face the end, they beg for company. They want their wives, their children, their friends, to hold their hands, to tell them that they are loved, to tell them that they matter. It is a biological instinct, to seek the herd, to seek warmth. But Musashi, he chose the stone floor over a warm bed. He chose the silence of a cave over the comfort of a clan. In his final hours, he did not ask for water or pity. He picked up his brush and wrote his final masterpiece. Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. 21 laws for those who have the courage to leave the herd behind. You see, society tells you that loneliness is a disease, a failure. But Musashi knew the truth. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. And to reach true greatness, to become who you are meant to be, you must pay the price that 99% of men are too afraid to pay. You must learn to walk alone. This content is distilled from ancient philosophy and modern psychology for educational purposes. It is not medical advice. To understand why Musashi's choice was so terrifying, you must first understand the biology of your own fear. Why does silence feel so heavy? Why does being alone feel like dying? Because for 99% of human history, it did mean dying. Imagine your ancestors, 200,000 years ago, on the savannah. Separation from the tribe was a death sentence. A lone human was not a warrior. He was a snack for the saber-toothed tiger. So evolution installed a deeply rooted alarm system in your brain. Neuroscience calls it the anterior cingulate cortex. It is the same part of the brain that registers physical pain, like a broken bone or a burn. When you are socially isolated, this region lights up. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a knife wound and the pain of being ignored. This is why you check your phone every 5 minutes. This is why you stay in toxic relationships. This is why you follow trends you do not even like. You are biologically wired to be a sheep, to seek the safety of the herd, to prioritize fitting in, over standing out. But the world has changed. The tiger is gone. The tribe is no longer necessary for survival. Yet, your primitive brain is still screaming at you to conform. It holds you hostage with the fear of loneliness. Miyamoto Musashi understood this mechanism centuries before we had MRI machines. He realized that to become invincible, he had to rewrite this biological code. He did not seek the warmth of the fire. He walked into the cold, until the cold became his friend. He realized that the pain of solitude was not a warning. It was a forge. The saber-toothed tiger is dead, but the fear remains. Look around you. We have built a civilization designed to kill silence. We are the most connected generation in history, yet the most fragile, because we have traded the dangers of the wild for the safety of a digital cage. Blaise Pascal, the great philosopher, once said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." And today, that inability has become an epidemic. You feel it, don't you? The moment the music stops, the moment the video ends, a creeping anxiety rising in your chest. You reach for your pocket, almost instinctively. You unlock the screen. You scroll. You check for a notification, for a like, for anything. You are not looking for information. You are looking for anesthesia. You are terrified of being left alone with your own thoughts. Because in the silence, the default mode network of your brain screams at you. It reminds you of your failures, your insecurities, the mediocrity you are so desperate to hide. So you drown it out with noise. You fill every second of your day with other people's voices, other people's lives. You think this is connection. No, this is slavery. Musashi did not have a smartphone, but he had distractions. He had sake. He had women. He had fame. But he understood that true power does not come from what you consume. It comes from what you can endure without. While the world runs from the silence, the Ronin runs toward it. The year is 1604. Under the spreading pine of Ichijoji, 70 armed men of the Yoshioka clan stand waiting. They are not just enemies. They are an army. Their plan is simple. Overwhelm the Ronin with sheer numbers. Surround him. and butcher him. By the laws of war, Musashi is already dead. No man can fight 70 opponents, not even a demon. But Musashi did not come to fight by their laws. He arrived hours early, hidden in the mud, invisible, silent, while the herd was busy talking, posturing, looking for validation from each other. Musashi struck. He did not duel them. He ambushed them. He cut down their commander instantly and turned their order into chaos. This battle reveals the supreme tactical advantage of solitude. The Yoshioka were 70 minds, cluttered with confusion, waiting for orders, worrying about their reputation. Musashi was one mind, one intent, zero hesitation. He ran. He used the rice fields to funnel them, forcing them to fight him one by one. He realized that a group is only as fast as its slowest member. But a solitary man, he moves at the speed of thought. In that muddy field, Musashi proved a brutal truth. The herd gives you a sense of safety, but it makes you slow, predictable, and stupid. Solitude strips you of protection, but it grants you speed and absolute freedom. He did not fight 70 men at once. He fought one man, 70 times. After the blood dried at Ichijoji, Musashi disappeared into the mountains. To the average man, this looks like punishment. We confuse being alone with being lonely. But in the dictionary of the warrior, these are two opposing forces. Loneliness is a passive state. It is the pain of being isolated when you crave connection. It is a feeling of lack, of emptiness. It is your brain telling you that you are not enough, that you need validation from the outside to feel whole. Solitude is different. Solitude is an active choice. It is the deliberate withdrawal from the noise. To connect with yourself. Loneliness drains your battery. Solitude recharges it. Modern neuroscience confirms this distinction. When you are lonely and ruminating, your brain's default mode network goes into overdrive, spiraling into anxiety and regret. But when you enter purposeful solitude, you switch off that network. You activate the task-positive network. You enter what Musashi called mushin, or no mind. In this state, you are not alone because you are empty. You are alone because you are full of purpose, full of clarity, full of power. Musashi did not walk away from society because he was rejected. He walked away because society was too loud for him to hear his own soul. He traded the cheap comfort of belonging for the supreme power of becoming. Musashi began his 21 laws with a warning that strikes at the heart of the modern human condition. Precept number 1. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. At first glance, this sounds miserable. Does he want us to suffer? To hate life? No. Musashi was not against happiness. He was against slavery. He understood a mechanism that modern neuroscience has only recently mapped out. We live in an age of weaponized pleasure. Fast food, pornography, social media algorithms. They are all engineered to hijack your brain's reward system, to trigger massive spikes of dopamine. But here is the trap. What goes up must come down. Neuroscience calls this the dopamine baseline. Every time you indulge in cheap pleasure, your baseline drops. You need more and more stimulation just to feel normal. You become numb. You become weak. You become a slave to the next hit. Musashi saw this weakness in the samurai of his time, who spent their nights in the pleasure quarters. They were soft. They could be bought. They could be controlled. By rejecting pleasure for its own sake, Musashi became anti-fragile. He found joy in the simple, in the difficult, in the discipline itself. He did not need a soft bed to sleep. He did not need fine wine to celebrate. Because he needed nothing, he was free from everything. When you stop chasing pleasure, you finally catch freedom. Now we arrive at the most difficult sacrifice, the one that separates the man from the monk, the warrior from the lover. Precept number 8. Do not think inescapably of love. Musashi was not a eunuch. He was a man of blood and fire. He knew the warmth of a woman. He knew the pull of desire. But he also knew that romantic obsession is the single greatest threat to a warrior's focus. Look at the modern man. He is strong in the gym. He is sharp in business. But he falls apart when he is rejected by a woman. He checks his phone 100 times an hour, waiting for a text that never comes. He shapes his entire life, his career, his identity, just to please a partner. Why? Biology calls it oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It is designed to glue you to another person for reproduction. But when you depend on it, It acts like a leash. Neuroscience scans show that the brain of a heartbroken man looks identical to the brain of a heroin addict in withdrawal. Musashi refused to be an addict. He refused to let his emotional state depend on someone else's validation. He taught us that you can love, but you must never cling. You must be complete on your own. Because if your sword arm is held by someone else, even if it is held with love, you are not free to fight. How did Musashi walk alone for years without going insane? Most men, if left alone with their thoughts for a week, would lose their minds. Why? Because of the default mode network. This is the part of your brain that activates when you are doing nothing. But it is not resting. It is attacking you. It is the time travel machine of the mind. It drags you into the past to relive your mistakes, then throws you into the future to worry about problems that haven't happened yet. It consumes 20% of your body's energy, just to make you anxious. Musashi discovered a biohack to shut this system down. He called it the way of walking alone. Science calls it transient hypofrontality. It means literally, the temporary shutting down of the frontal cortex. When Musashi walked, he was not daydreaming. He was practicing hyper-awareness. He focused entirely on the sensory input, the sound of the wind, the texture of the ground, the rhythm of his breath. By flooding his brain with the now, he starved the default mode network of energy. The voice of the ego, the inner critic, simply vanished. In this state, there is no fear, no doubt, no Musashi. There is only the act of walking. This is the flow state, and this is why the loner is dangerous. While the herd is wasting energy worrying about social status, the loner is channeling 100% of his energy into the present moment. In his later years, Musashi stopped caring about how he looked. He reportedly stopped taking baths, not because he was lazy, but because he refused to be vulnerable without his sword. He walked through cities looking like a beggar, while possessing the skills of a god. To the modern world, this is insanity. We are obsessed with our image. We curate our lives on social media, terrified of a bad angle, terrified of a wrong opinion, terrified of being canceled. Why? Because to your primitive brain, social death is as terrifying as physical death. The amygdala scans for disapproval the same way it scans for a predator. But Musashi achieved a state called shinigurui, or death frenzy. It is the realization that you are already dead. If you are already dead, you have nothing to protect. You have no reputation to lose. No ego to bruise. No image to maintain. In his Dokkodo, he wrote, "In all things have no preference," and implied, "Do not fear death." When you stop caring what people think of you, you become dangerous. You become authentic, because the man who is willing to walk alone is the only man who is truly free. Most people live their lives in a cage built by other people's opinions. Musashi burned that cage down. As the candle flickered in the Ryagando cave, Musashi finished his work. He left behind 21 laws, not rules for sword fighting, but rules for soul survival. When you read Dokkodo, you realize it is a roadmap for total independence. He tells us, accept everything just the way it is. Do not fight reality. Do not wish for a different life. Adapt to the one you have. He tells us, do not hold on to possessions you no longer need, because the more you own, the more the world owns you. He tells us, you may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor, because your body will rot, but your principles are eternal. But the most powerful law is the final one. Never stray from the way. What is the way? It is not a religion. It is not a strict set of dogmas. The way is your internal compass. It is the purpose you have chosen for your life. When you have the way, you are never truly alone. The way is your father, your mother, your teacher, and your friend. Musashi walked alone physically, but spiritually, he was always accompanied by his dedication to mastery. If you have a purpose that burns brighter than your fear of loneliness, then isolation is no longer a prison. It is a palace. So, how do you apply the way of walking alone in the 21st century? You do not need to live in a cave. You do not need to abandon your family. But you must build a fortress of solitude within your daily life. Here is the protocol for the modern Ronin. First, the digital seppuku. Musashi carried 2 swords. You carry a device that connects you to 5 billion people. This is your weakness. Designate 1 hour every day, preferably the first hour, to kill the connection. Phone off. Wi-Fi off. No news. No messages. No outside voices. Claim your mind before the world claims it. Second, the sacred hour. Musashi trained while his enemies slept. Wake up before the sun. While the herd is dreaming or scrolling, you are working. In the silence of the morning, the boundary between you and your purpose is thinnest. This is where the magic happens. Third, output over input. Loneliness hurts when you are consuming. Solitude empowers when you are creating. Do not use your alone time to watch others live. Use it to build your body. Write your code. Sharpen your skills. Turn your isolation into production. The world will try to pull you back into the noise. They will call you antisocial. They will say you are obsessed. Let them talk. The sheep fear the silence. The wolf hunts in it. 7 days after writing the Dokkodo, Miyamoto Musashi dropped his brush. He crossed the river of death exactly as he lived. Without regret, without fear, and completely alone. He left no property. He left no children. But he left a spirit that has outlived empires. The Dokkodo is not just a text. It is a mirror. Most people look into it and see a life of hardship. But a select few, the rare 1%, look into it and see a map to freedom. The world today is designed to make you soft. It begs you to fit in. It bribes you with comfort to give up your sovereignty. To choose the path of the loner is an act of rebellion. It is a declaration that you belong to no one but yourself. The path is open. The cave is waiting. But remember, the price of greatness is isolation. If you're not willing to pay it, close this video and go back to the herd. But if you are ready to accept the burden, if you are ready to find peace in the storm, then prove it. Do not just subscribe like a fan. Commit like a warrior. Go to the comments and leave your oath. Write the words, "I walk alone." Carve it into the digital stone as your first act of independence. Welcome to the dojo. Class dismissed.